You think you're seeking God, but what if the very act of seeking is the trap? What if every prayer you whisper, every meditation you practice, every spiritual book you read is secretly feeding the one thing that keeps you from what you claim to want? Stop. Look at your spiritual life right now. That collection of crystals, those mantras you repeat, that guru you follow, that quiet pride you feel when someone calls you enlightened. Ibn Arabi, the greatest mystic Islam ever produced, would look at you and see something you refuse to see. You're not on a spiritual path. You're building a gilded cage. The 13th century Sufi master didn't write for the comfortable. He wrote for those brave enough to face the most disturbing truth about human spirituality. We don't fail because we're not spiritual enough. We fail because we've turned spirituality itself into our most sophisticated form of selfishness. Right now, reading this, you're doing it. That little voice saying, yes, this is for other people, but I'm different. That's it. That's the trap speaking, and it's been speaking your entire life. The spiritual path, according to Ibn Arabi, isn't destroyed by atheists or materialists. It's destroyed by spiritual seekers themselves. Every single one of us carries a disease so subtle, so perfectly camouflaged in holy language and righteous intentions, that we mistake it for enlightenment itself. We call it devotion when it's addiction. We call it surrender when it's manipulation. We call it love when it's the most refined form of selfishness the human psyche can manufacture. Let me tell you what Ibn Arabi discovered in his deepest moments of spiritual unveiling, the teaching that got mystics after him accused of heresy, the insight that will either break you open or make you close this video because it's too close to the truth you've been running from your entire life. The trap isn't out there. It's the very structure of your desire itself. Ibn Arabi taught about hawa, a word in Arabic that means both essential desire and passionate love, and also chillingly, to fall and the abyss. Do you see it? The language itself is telling you something your mind refuses to accept. The energy that drives you toward the divine is the exact same energy that casts you into the void. Every spiritual impulse you've ever had carries both possibilities simultaneously. You cannot separate them. You think you're climbing toward heaven, but you might be digging your way deeper into a beautifully decorated hell of your own making. Think about what you want right now. Peace, enlightenment, union with God, freedom from suffering. Now feel into the quality of that wanting itself. Feel how it grips you, how it whispers that you're incomplete without it, how it measures you against others, how it creates a secret hierarchy where you're better than those who don't seek what you seek. Ibn Arabi would tell you, this wanting, this wholly seeming desire for transcendence has already separated you from what you claim to seek. The seeker creates the distance that seeking tries to cross. You are generating your own spiritual exile with every breath of ambition. In his masterwork, the Futuhat al-Makkiyah, the Meccan Revelations, Ibn Arabi describes the human being as caught between two sources, the divine spirit breath from above and the elemental body from below. We exist at a point of perpetual tension. The breath of the All-Merciful enters us, filling us with power, with possibility, with the intoxicating taste of transcendence. But that same breath immediately encounters the weakness, need, and limitation of our animal nature. And here's what destroys most seekers. We cannot accept this dual nature. We want to be pure spirit. We want to transcend the body. We want to rise above human weakness. But Ibn Arabi's radical insight cuts through this fantasy like a blade. God permanently conjoined your spirit with your bodily nature in this life and the next, specifically so you would remain humble, needful, forever aware of your dependence. The trap is thinking you're supposed to escape this. The trap is believing that enlightenment means becoming something other than vulnerably, messily, limitedly human. Every time you try to rise above your human condition, you're actually falling into the most ancient spiritual trap, the desire to be God rather than to know God. This is the poison at the heart of almost every spiritual path, the secret belief that you can become independent, complete, self-sufficient. Ibn Arabi calls this the disease of rububiyah, claiming lordship, the hidden arrogance that enters even the most sincere seeker. You see it everywhere once you know what to look for. The meditation practitioner who subtly looks down on those who don't meditate. The devotee who uses their devotion as proof of their specialness. the ascetic whose renunciation becomes a crown of pride, the mystic who mistakes their experiences for achievement. Listen carefully. According to Ibn Arabi, the person who enters the next life with even a trace of this lordship, this subtle sense of spiritual independence or accomplishment, will not be able to remain there. They'll be driven back because they cannot sustain existence in a realm that demands complete servanthood. Think about that. Your spiritual pride, the thing you mistake for progress, is literally preparing you for spiritual exile. Every time you think, I'm getting somewhere, or I've achieved something, or I'm more awake than I used to be, you're feeding the very mechanism that Ibn Arabi says will ultimately expel you from what you seek. The cruelest part? You can't just stop desiring. You can't just stop seeking. The trap is woven into the fabric of being human. Ibn Arabi explains that the fear of non-existence is so fundamental to the human soul that we cannot imagine our own non-being without experiencing it as torture. Being itself has a pleasure, a sweetness. We cling to existence with a desperation we rarely acknowledge, and this clinging, this fundamental terror of dissolution, shapes every single desire we have, including our spiritual desires. So what you call your spiritual seeking is often just your terror of non-existence, dressed in sacred robes. You're not seeking God. You're seeking a stronger, more permanent sense of self. You're not surrendering. You're trying to secure yourself. You're not dying to the ego. You're trying to build an ego so spiritual, so refined, so enlightened that it can survive death itself. Ibn Arabi saw this. He watched students and seekers his entire life, and he identified the pattern. We come to the spiritual path because something is missing. Pain drives us. Lack drives us. The sense that ordinary life is not enough drives us, and we're told that spirituality will fill that hole. But here's the trap. We bring the same acquisitive consciousness to spirituality that created our suffering in the first place. We try to possess enlightenment. We try to own peace. We try to capture God. The word Ibn Arabi uses is hawa, and now you need to understand its full terrible meaning. Hawa is the passion that drives the soul. It's the love that pulls you beyond yourself. It's also the caprice, the whim, the selfish desire that destroys everything it touches. It's the wind that lifts you up and the abyss into which you fall. And here's the secret that will change everything if you let it. Hawa cannot be separated into good desire and bad desire. It's one force, one energy, one movement of the soul. How it manifests depends entirely on whether you're aware of the trap or not. Most spiritual teachings try to kill desire. Fast, renounce, meditate until you're empty. Transcend the body, rise above human passion. Ibn Arabi's teaching is more dangerous and more honest. You cannot kill Hawa. If you try, you only create a more insidious form of it. The person who renounces worldly desire often becomes consumed with spiritual desire. The person who gives up material ambition often becomes ravaged by spiritual ambition. You haven't freed yourself. You've just moved the location of your prison. The ascetic in the cave, proud of his renunciation, is still caught. The devotee who's given up everything for God, but who secretly measures her holiness against others, is still caught. The mystic who's had profound experiences and now feels he's arrived is still caught. In fact, Ibn Arabi suggests they might be more caught than the ordinary person living an ordinary life, because they've dressed their chains in sanctity. They've made their cage so beautiful, they no longer recognize it as a cage. This is why Ibn Arabi warns against a particular type of attachment that he calls the most dangerous of all, attachment to one's spiritual self-image. The seeker detaches from the visible world, from wealth, from status, from pleasure, but remains chained to the invisible world of how they see themselves. I am a seeker. I am devoted. I am on the path. I am surrendered. These identities, these spiritual self-concepts, become more binding than any material chain because they wear the mask of holiness. You cannot fight them because you think they're holy. You cannot renounce them because they appear to be the very substance of your spiritual progress. Let me paint you a picture Ibn Arabi would recognize. There's a person who meditates every day, prays, practices mindfulness, reads sacred texts, attends retreats, follows a teacher, and inside, quietly, invisibly, they're keeping score. They notice when others aren't as disciplined. They feel a subtle superiority around people who are less conscious. They have a secret pride in how much they've grown, how far they've come. They might even be aware of this pride and feel bad about it, which becomes another form of spiritual self-involvement. This person is caught in what Ibn Arabi would call the trap of spiritual lordship. They've created a private kingdom inside their own consciousness where they are the measure of all things. God has become a concept they use to validate themselves. Prayer has become a performance for an internalized audience. Spirituality has become a sophisticated form of narcissism. And the tragedy is, they cannot see it. The trap is by nature invisible to the person inside it. If you could see it, you wouldn't be in it. Now here's where Ibn Arabi's teaching becomes truly disturbing. He says the spiritual seeker must learn to recognize their fundamental weakness, not as a problem to solve, not as a deficiency to overcome, but as the permanent truth of human existence. You are weak, you are needy, you are dependent, you are limited. You are, in Ibn Arabi's striking phrase, trash, filled with weakness and need, despite whatever glimpses of the divine you might have. Everything in contemporary spirituality tells you the opposite. You are infinite consciousness. You are divine. You are powerful beyond measure. You are limitless potential. And Ibn Arabi says, these teachings are poison. They're feeding the disease of lordship. They're giving divine names to human arrogance. The moment you believe you're transcending your human limitation, you've fallen into the deepest pit. Because here's the secret. Your weakness is not an obstacle to God. Your weakness is the very ground of relationship with God. Ibn Arabi teaches that God permanently fused your spirit with your limited, vulnerable, needy bodily nature, specifically so you would forever remain in the posture of servanthood, of ubudiyya. You were never meant to become God. You were meant to know God by remaining utterly, helplessly human. The spiritual trap sabotages everything you desire because it takes the energy of genuine spiritual longing and corrupts it at the source. You long for union with the divine? The trap turns that longing into a project of self-improvement. You yearn for freedom from suffering. The trap turns that yearning into an obsession with controlling your inner states. You want to surrender? The trap turns surrender itself into an achievement, something you do, something you can succeed or fail at, something you can be proud of. This is why Ibn Arabi's teaching about Hawa, about desire, love, and the abyss is so crucial. He's telling you that the very thing driving your spiritual life is the thing you need to understand completely, and that understanding is nearly impossible while you're caught in it. Desire creates seeking. Seeking creates distance. Distance creates suffering. Suffering creates more desire. The loop feeds itself. And spirituality, instead of breaking the loop, often just makes it more complex, more subtle, more undetectable. Think about your spiritual history. Every breakthrough you've had, every insight, every experience of expanded awareness or deep peace or oceanic unity. Now look at what happened after. Did you try to hold on to it? Did you try to get back to it? Did you compare your current state to that remembered state? Did you feel like you lost something? Ibn Arabi would tell you the experience wasn't the trap. The trap was your relationship to the experience. The trap was the subtle belief that you achieved something, possessed something, deserved something. Here's an example that cuts to the bone. Love. In spiritual communities, love is held up as the highest virtue. Love for God, love for all beings, universal, unconditional love. But Ibn Arabi makes a devastating distinction. There is love that liberates, and there is love that binds. How do you tell them apart? By their fruit. True love makes you more generous, more patient, more humble. It softens you. It makes you capable of seeing the divine light in every face. False love, the love born from attachment, makes you anxious, possessive, and small. It feeds your ego instead of freeing you from it. False love, according to Ibn Arabi, happens when love becomes possession. You no longer see the divine light in the beloved. You see only your need. The beloved becomes a mirror of your hunger. And what you call love is just the ego wanting to own what it finds beautiful. This doesn't just apply to romantic love. It applies to your love of God, your love of peace, your love of enlightenment. If your spiritual love makes you grasping, if it makes you anxious about whether you're there yet, if it makes you judge yourself and others, then Ibn Arabi would tell you, this is not love. This is hawa in its destructive mode. This is the abyss dressed as devotion. The same pattern appears in every aspect of spiritual life. Practices that should free you become rituals that trap you. Teachers who should point you beyond themselves become objects of dependency. Communities that should support your growth become mirrors, reflecting your need for belonging and validation. Sacred texts that should shatter your certainties become weapons you use to defend your positions. Even silence, even meditation, even prayer, they all can become tools of the trap. Ibn Arabi describes a specific form of spiritual self-deception he calls iktirar. This is when your lower self, your nafs, your ego nature, deludes you about God's mercy and forgiveness, while you continue to persist in harmful patterns. The trap whispers, God is merciful, God will forgive you, you can keep doing what you're doing. After all, if you didn't sin, how could divine mercy even appear? You see this logic everywhere in spiritual communities. It's all part of the journey. God loves you as you are. You're exactly where you need to be. These statements might be true in one context, but the trap uses them to justify unconsciousness. The trap uses spiritual language to allow you to keep sleepwalking. Ibn Arabi calls this the ultimate ignorance. Not the ignorance of the person who doesn't know about spirituality, but the ignorance of the person who uses spirituality to avoid transformation. This is the darkest part of Ibn Arabi's teaching, and the part most modern spirituality refuses to face. True spiritual life requires a kind of death that nobody wants. Not the romantic death of the ego that spiritual books talk about, not the blissful dissolution into oceanic oneness, but the moment-by-moment dying to your certainty that you know anything at all, the dying to your cherished sense of being advanced or awakened or evolved, the dying to your secret pride in being a seeker, the dying to your subtle sense of superiority over those who haven't woken up. Ibn Arabi teaches that the human being is fundamentally characterized by khawf, fearful anxiety. This isn't a character flaw, it's built into the structure of being human. We are weak, we are vulnerable. We exist at a degree of domination so far down the chain of being that we are, as Ibn Arabi says, the weakest of all weak things. A flea bite disturbs our sleep. A mosquito undoes our pretensions to courage. Our vaunted human dignity is constantly undermined by our biological fragility, our emotional volatility, our mental instability. And yet, we construct these elaborate spiritual fantasies where we're transcending all of that. We'll become so conscious we won't be affected by pain. We'll become so enlightened we won't have desires. We'll become so awakened we won't have fear. Ibn Arabi says, this is delusion. The courage you think you have is not yours. It's given to you by the divine breath in each moment. The power you feel is not something you possess. It's something flowing through you. The moment you claim it as your own, the moment you think, I have achieved this, you've cut yourself off from the very source that made it possible. This brings us to perhaps the most disturbing aspect of Ibn Arabi's teaching. The trap doesn't just sabotage what you desire. It transforms your desire itself into the mechanism of sabotage. Let me explain. You want peace. The trap turns that want into a constant evaluation of whether you're peaceful enough. You want to be free from ego? The trap turns that want into a new ego identity. I am someone who is working on their ego. You want to be present? The trap turns that into an achievement you can succeed or fail at, which immediately throws you out of presence. The trap is fractal. It reproduces itself at every level. You notice it at one level and think you've escaped, but it's already operating at a deeper level. You catch your spiritual pride and feel humble about catching it, which becomes a new, more subtle form of spiritual pride. You recognize your attachment to experiences and let them go, which becomes a new attachment to the identity of being someone who doesn't attach. You see through your ego's games and feel superior for seeing through them, which is the ego playing a new game. This is why Ibn Arabi insists on the necessity of a profound lived understanding of ubudiyya, servanthood, not as a concept, not as a practice you do, but as the permanent, unchanging truth of your existence. You are a servant. Not a bad servant working to become a good one. Not an unconscious servant becoming a conscious one. A servant, period. You don't possess anything. You don't control anything. You don't know anything. You are upheld in existence moment by a power utterly beyond your comprehension, and the instant that power withdraws, you cease to be. Modern spirituality hates this teaching. It sounds like religion. It sounds like it's diminishing human dignity and potential. It sounds like it's killing hope. But Ibn Arabi would say, you're still caught in the trap if you think this way. You're still trying to be something. You're still trying to achieve something. You're still operating within the framework where you're the actor, and spirituality is your project. The truth he's pointing to is much stranger and much more liberating. You're not the actor. You never were. The breath that breathes you, the awareness that witnesses your thoughts, the love that moves you toward the divine, none of that is yours. It's God's activity within you, and the moment you truly understand this, the trap loses its power. But and this is crucial, you cannot make yourself understand this. You cannot practice your way into servanthood. You cannot achieve genuine humility. Any attempt to do so just creates a more refined form of lordship, a more sophisticated version of the ego. Ibn Arabi's teaching points to a kind of spiritual dead end that is actually the doorway. The moment when you finally realize you cannot do this, you cannot fix yourself, you cannot transcend yourself, you cannot achieve enlightenment, you cannot escape the trap through your own efforts. This is where most seekers turn back. They cannot face this helplessness. It feels like giving up. It feels like defeat. It feels like spiritual failure. So they redouble their efforts. More practice. Different teachers, new techniques, deeper meditation, stronger devotion. And all of this, Ibn Arabi would say, is still the trap. Still the ego trying to survive by wearing spiritual clothing. Still the self trying to secure itself by claiming proximity to God. The teaching gets even more difficult. Ibn Arabi says that the person who comes to God while still carrying some trace of lordship in their soul will not be able to remain in the divine presence. They'll flee back to the realm where their lordly self can manifest. Think about what that means for your spiritual practices. Every time you sit down to meditate with the intention to get somewhere, with the subtle belief that you're working towards something, with the hidden expectation that this will make you different or better or more evolved, you're carrying lordship. You're coming to the practice as the one who practices, the one who improves, the one who advances. And that very posture closes the door you're trying to open. So what's the alternative? This is where Ibn Arabi's teaching becomes almost unbearably subtle. The alternative isn't to stop practicing, it isn't to give up seeking, it isn't to become passive or nihilistic. The alternative is to practice and seek from a completely different ground, not as the one who lacks and is trying to gain, but as the one who is already upheld by divine mercy in every moment, who exists only by divine grace, who has nothing and is nothing apart from that grace. This sounds like a conceptual distinction, but it creates a completely different quality of spiritual life. When you practice from lordship, there's always strain, always evaluation, always the subtle violence of trying to make yourself different than you are. When you practice from servanthood, there's ease. Not because things are easy, but because you're no longer carrying the burden of being the one who has to succeed or fail. You're just responding to what's given in each moment. Prayer becomes natural as breathing. Meditation becomes rest rather than effort. Life becomes worship not because you're making it so, but because you've stopped pretending it was ever anything else. But here's what will probably break your mind. Even this distinction between practicing from lordship and practicing from servanthood can become a new trap. You can start monitoring yourself. Am I coming from lordship or servanthood right now? You can turn servanthood into an identity. I am a humble servant of God. You can use the language of servanthood while still operating from the psychology of lordship. The trap is endless, recursive, infinitely adaptive. This is why Ibn Arabi places such emphasis on sidq, sincerity, but a sincerity so deep it's almost beyond human capacity. Not the sincerity of trying really hard, not the sincerity of good intentions, but a sincerity that comes from such complete transparency to your own motives that you can no longer fool yourself. This kind of sincerity is rare because it requires that you be willing to see the ugliest truths about yourself without flinching, without defending, without spiritual bypassing. It requires that you be willing to see how your devotion is mixed with pride, how your love is mixed with need, how your seeking is mixed with running away, how your surrender is mixed with manipulation, how your humility is mixed with the pride of being humble. Most people cannot sustain this level of honesty for more than a few seconds at a time. It's too painful. It destroys too many cherished stories. It leaves you naked in a way that feels unbearable. This is what Ibn Arabi means when he talks about the need for muhasaba, constant accounting of the soul. He describes taking inventory not just of your actions, but of your khawatir, your inner thoughts and impulses, moment by moment. Why? Because the trap operates at the level of subtle intention. You can do all the right things for all the wrong reasons. You can pray perfectly while spiritually asleep. You can renounce everything while still grasping everything. You can speak about God while actually talking about yourself. The trap sabotages everything you desire because it lives in the gap between what you think you want and what you actually want. You think you want God, but when God comes close, when life strips away your certainties, shatters your plans, breaks your heart, humiliates your ego, you resist. You pull back. You want the idea of God, the comfort of God, the version of God that confirms your existing self-image. But the actual encounter with reality as it is, that's too much. That requires a death you're not willing to die. Ibn Arabi teaches about the process of fana, annihilation, and baqa, subsistence. Traditional Sufism interprets these as stages on the path. First, your ego dies, fana, then you subsist in God, baqa. But Ibn Arabi's understanding is more nuanced and more disturbing. The dying is not once, it's constant, moment by moment by moment. Every moment asks you to die to your claim on existence, to die to your certainty, to die to your story about who you are and what's happening. And every moment offers the possibility of subsisting, not in some transcendent realm, but right here, in this flawed, limited, beautiful, terrible human experience, but from a completely different ground. Most people touch this truth in glimpses, a moment of genuine presence where the commentary stops, an instant of real prayer where you're no longer performing, a flash of authentic love where you forget yourself entirely, and then the trap closes again. The mind comes back in, I had an experience. I was really present there. I felt something real. And now the experience becomes past, becomes memory, becomes something you compare all future moments to, becomes proof of your progress or lack thereof. The trap has reasserted itself. The cruelest thing Ibn Arabi reveals is this: the trap doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with warning signs. It comes dressed as genuine spirituality. It quotes scripture. It uses all the right language. It looks from the outside exactly like the real thing. The only way to distinguish true spirituality from the trap is by the most subtle of measurements. Does it increase your sense of neediness and dependence on God, or does it increase your sense of spiritual accomplishment and independence? Does it make you softer toward others' failures or more judgmental? Does it increase your shame before God or your pride before people? Ibn Arabi uses a striking metaphor. The human being is the son of his mother, meaning the bodily, earthly, limited dimension of existence. We want to be sons and daughters of the Spirit, children of the divine, transcendent beings. But Ibn Arabi insists, no. You are your mother's child. You are of the earth. You are fed by blood and sustained by food and subject to decay. This is not a problem to solve. This is the truth within which all genuine spirituality must operate. Any spirituality that denies this, that tries to vault over human limitation into some pure spiritual realm, is fantasy. It's the trap in its most seductive form. Think about the spiritual marketplace of our time. Countless teachers promising awakening, enlightenment, ascension, transformation, practices that will raise your vibration, expand your consciousness, activate your DNA, align your chakras, all of it operating on the unspoken assumption that you're supposed to become something other than what you are, something more spiritual, more evolved, more conscious, less human. Ibn Arabi would look at all of this and see one thing: the ancient disease of lordship dressed in contemporary clothing. Because here's the secret the trap doesn't want you to know. You're already in the presence of God, not as a potential that needs to be realized, not as a goal that needs to be achieved right now. In your confusion and your clarity, in your wisdom and your ignorance, in your devotion and your resistance, in your seeking and your avoiding, all of it is already happening within the divine presence. The trap makes you believe you need to get somewhere. The truth is you're already there, you've always been there, you can't not be there. But, and this is critical, this is not the same as saying everything is fine, or you don't need to practice, or there's nothing to do. That's spiritual bypassing, another form of the trap. Ibn Arabi's point is more paradoxical. You are simultaneously in the presence of God and completely veiled from recognizing it. The veil is not some metaphysical substance. The veil is your conviction that you're not already there. The veil is your seeking. The veil is your trying. The veil is your subtle belief that you need to earn, deserve, or achieve what is already the fundamental condition of your existence. This creates a profound paradox that Ibn Arabi doesn't resolve, because it can't be resolved conceptually. You can't stop seeking because seeking is part of your nature. It's the movement of hawa, the passion that drives the soul. But seeking from the usual consciousness just strengthens the trap. So what's needed is not to stop seeking, but to seek from an entirely different ground, to seek while knowing you're already found, to practice while knowing there's nothing to achieve, to strive while simultaneously resting in the truth that you cannot add anything to or subtract anything from the divine presence that already holds you. This is the razor's edge Ibn Arabi walks throughout his teaching. It's not about finding some middle path between extremes. It's about holding two contradictory truths simultaneously. You are utterly dependent, and God asks you to strive with everything you have. You cannot achieve anything through your own power, and you're commanded to exert yourself fully. You're nothing, and you're the divine representative on earth. These aren't paradoxes to be resolved. They're the permanent condition of being human, and spiritual maturity is learning to live within this tension without collapsing it into comfortable certainty on either side. The trap is any teaching that removes this tension. Any spirituality that tells you that you just need to try harder, be more disciplined, do more practice. That's collapsing the tension into the lordship side. Any spirituality that tells you there's nothing to do, you're already enlightened, just relax. That's collapsing the tension into the spiritual bypassing side. Ibn Arabi's teaching maintains the full weight of both truths. You're called to absolute sincerity and total effort, and you simultaneously must understand that any result comes purely from divine grace and has nothing to do with your effort. This teaching creates a very specific kind of person if it's truly lived. Not someone who's achieved spiritual perfection, not someone who's transcended human limitation, but someone who's become real in a way most people aren't. Someone who knows their own darkness so intimately that they can no longer pretend to be enlightened. Someone who's faced their own capacity for self-deception so completely that they've become undeludable in a certain way. Someone who's discovered that the spiritual path doesn't make you into a saint. It makes you into a lucid human being who knows exactly how unsaintly they are. Ibn Arabi himself is the model. Read his autobiography. He describes his visions, his miracles, his profound insights, and in the same breath, he describes his doubts, his confusions, his failures. He doesn't present himself as having arrived anywhere. He presents himself as someone who's been granted glimpses, who's been taught by divine grace, who's been shown things, but who remains utterly human, utterly limited, utterly dependent. This is not false humility. This is the lucidity that comes from seeing the trap so clearly that you can no longer fall for it the same way. But, and this needs to be emphasized, you don't arrive at this lucidity through your own intelligence or spiritual prowess. You arrive at it through having the trap close on you so many times in so many ways that eventually your entire system learns to recognize the signature feeling of the trap. It's like developing an allergy to your own bullshit, not through judgment, but through having tasted the bitter fruit of spiritual self-deception so many times that you develop an immediate visceral recognition. This is it again. This is the trap. The trap sabotages everything you desire by corrupting the desiring itself. But there's something even deeper that Ibn Arabi points to. He suggests that Hawa, this desire, this love, this passion, is itself the divine creative force moving through you. Were it not for Hawa in the heart, he writes, Hawa would not be worshipped. This is a stunning statement. He's saying that the very energy you think of as your ego's desire is actually divine in origin. It's the breath of the All-Merciful moving through the limited instrument of your individual consciousness. From this perspective, the trap is not that you have desire. The trap is that you mistake the desire as yours, as originating from you, as something you own and control. The moment you claim the desire, I want enlightenment, I'm seeking God, I'm working on myself, you've cut the desire off from its source and turned it into an ego project. But if you could experience desire without claiming it, without identifying with it, without making it about you, then the same energy that created the trap could become the energy that liberates you. This is why Ibn Arabi says at the end of his life that Hawa brings you to rest in the place of deepest integrity. Not because desire is good or bad, but because when desire is experienced without the distortion of ego claiming, it's revealed as the movement of divine love through human consciousness. The seeker and the sought are discovered to be movements of the same reality. The path and the goal are not separate. They never were. It was only the trap, the belief that you were separate, that you were lacking, that you needed to get somewhere, that created the illusion of distance. If you're still reading this, you're probably asking, so what do I do? How do I avoid the trap? How do I escape it? And the answer Ibn Arabi would give is the one you don't want to hear. You don't. You can't. The trap is part of being human. The only question is whether you become conscious within it or remain unconscious, whether you see how it works or stay blind to it, whether you learn to recognize its subtle movements or continue to mistake your ego's projects for genuine spirituality. There's no five-step method. There's no technique. There's no practice that will save you from this. In fact, any technique or practice can become another expression of the trap. What Ibn Arabi points to is much simpler and much harder. Ruthless honesty about your own motives, constant attention to the quality of your inner movements, willingness to see what you don't want to see about yourself. And underneath all of that, a deepening recognition that you cannot do this on your own, that you need grace, that you need help, that you need something you cannot give yourself. This is why Ibn Arabi emphasizes finding a genuine teacher, not someone to follow blindly, not someone to idealize, but someone who's far enough ahead of you on the path of self-knowledge that they can see through your self-deceptions before you can. Someone who won't indulge your ego's spiritual projects. Someone who will confront you with your own contradictions, your own subtle hypocrisies, your own ways of using spirituality to avoid genuine transformation. Such teachers are rare because most spiritual teachers are themselves still caught in subtle forms of the trap. You can recognize a genuine teacher by a simple test that Ibn Arabi implies throughout his work. Do they increase your dependence on them, or do they increase your awareness of your dependence on God? Do they make themselves necessary, or do they constantly point beyond themselves? Do they encourage your spiritual ambition, or do they undermine it? Do they validate your sense of progress, or do they question your criteria for measuring progress? A teacher caught in the trap will create disciples who depend on them, who think they're special for having this teacher, who believe they're in the inner circle of spiritual attainment. A teacher who's seen through the trap will create students who increasingly stand on their own, who've learned to question everything, including the teacher, who've discovered that the goal is not to be a great student, but to be genuinely human. This brings us to one final crucial point. The trap sabotages everything you desire, but what if the trap itself is the teaching? What if the entire point is to have your spiritual ambitions sabotaged, your certainties shattered, your progress undermined? Ibn Arabi's teaching suggests that God uses the trap as a divine instrument. Every time you think you're getting somewhere and the trap closes, every time you think you've figured it out and you discover another layer of self-deception, every time you feel spiritually accomplished and something happens to humble you, this is not failure. This is the curriculum. The trap exists to teach you that you cannot do this on your own. That spiritual life is not about your achievement. That enlightenment is not a goal you reach through effort. That the whole framework of progress and development and evolution is itself a manifestation of the trap. Every sabotage is an opportunity to let go a little more deeply. Every failure is an invitation to stop trying to succeed. Every humiliation is a gift showing you where you're still claiming lordship. From this perspective, the spiritual path is not about transcending the trap. It's about being humbled by it so many times, in so many ways, that something in you finally breaks. Not a dramatic breaking, a quiet, almost imperceptible shift. The shift from "I'm doing this" to "this is happening," from "I will achieve" to "may thy will be done," from "I am seeking" to "I am being sought." Ibn Arabi doesn't describe this as an achievement. He describes it as finally giving up, finally stopping, finally letting the breath breathe you and the awareness witness you and the love move you without your interference. And even this, even what I've just described, can become a new trap if you try to make it happen, if you try to surrender, if you work on letting go, if you practice acceptance, because all of that is still you, still the ego, still operating within the framework of doing and achieving and becoming. The deepest teaching of Ibn Arabi is not something you can apply. It's something that might by grace occur to you as you continue to stumble your way through spiritual life. Continue to practice, continue to pray, continue to seek, but with an increasing awareness that none of this is yours, that you're not the actor here, that everything from the seeking to the finding to the understanding of this very teaching is divine activity within human consciousness. The trap is that you think you're reading these words, understanding this teaching, learning something valuable. The truth is, this is just happening. Words are appearing in consciousness. Meaning is arising. Some resonance or resistance is occurring. And none of it requires the assumption that there's a separate you who's in control of any of it. The trap wants you to take this teaching and do something with it, to apply it, to work with it, to use it to improve yourself. But the teaching is not a tool for self-improvement. It's a mirror showing you that the self who would improve itself is a fiction, and a particularly tragic one because it cuts you off from what you already are. A temporary aperture through which the divine regards itself, a fleeting moment in which consciousness recognizes itself, a brief wave in an ocean that was never not ocean. Ibn Arabi's final gift, if you can receive it, is not hope. It's not comfort. It's not a path out of difficulty. It's the gradual, destabilizing realization that there is no out because you were never in. The trap exists within a dream of separation that seems absolutely real, but has no ultimate reality. And waking up from that dream is not something you accomplish. It's something that happens when the dream has exhausted itself, when every attempt to fix yourself has failed, when every spiritual project has collapsed, when every teacher has disappointed you, when every practice has proven insufficient. And in that exhaustion and failure and disappointment, something shifts. Not toward anything, just a shift. A recognition. Oh, this is it, this mess, this confusion, this limited, flawed, mortal human experience. This is the presence of God. It was always this. I was looking for something extraordinary, and I missed the infinite value of what was right here all along. The trap sabotages everything you desire, because it teaches you, eventually, that what you thought you desired was never what you actually desired. You thought you wanted enlightenment, but you were seeking security. You thought you wanted freedom, but you were seeking control. You thought you wanted union with God, but you were seeking escape from human vulnerability. And when those desires are sabotaged again and again and again, a different possibility emerges. Not the satisfaction of your desires, but their clarification. Not getting what you want, but discovering what you actually want beneath all the spiritual noise. And what you actually want, Ibn Arabi suggests, is simpler and more impossible than any spiritual achievement. You want to be real, to stop pretending, to stop performing, to stop trying to be something you're not, to stop running from what you are, to meet reality, this limited, vulnerable, mortal reality, without the filter of judgment or the project of improvement, to look in the mirror and see neither accomplishment nor failure, but just a human being, doing their best, failing constantly, graced with unearned moments of beauty and connection, held in existence by a mercy they can't comprehend, serving a purpose they can't see, playing a role in a story whose plot they don't understand and don't need to understand. This won't satisfy the part of you that came to spirituality seeking power. It won't satisfy the part seeking specialness. It won't satisfy the part seeking escape. But it might satisfy something deeper, the tired, discouraged, humbled part that's ready to stop trying to become something and ready to finally, simply, be what you've always been and could never not be. A servant, a creature, a momentary expression of an infinite mystery that will never reveal its full meaning to any finite perspective and doesn't need to. The trap sabotages everything you desire. And that sabotage, if you can bear it, if you can stop fighting it, if you can let it break you open instead of hardening you into bitterness, that sabotage is grace. It's the divine mercy protecting you from the hell of spiritual achievement, the prison of enlightened self-image, the cage of holy identity. The sabotage strips away what you thought you wanted so that what you actually need can finally reach you. And what you need is not another spiritual experience or insight or breakthrough. What you need is to finally mercifully be allowed to rest from the exhausting project of being someone worthy of God's attention. You already have God's attention. You've never not had it. You're breathing God's breath right now. You're sustained by God's mercy in this exact moment. And the only thing standing between you and the recognition of this is the trap. The belief that you need to do something, be something, achieve something to deserve what's already being given. Ibn Arabi spent his life trying to communicate this simple, devastating truth. Stop trying to get somewhere. You're already there. The trap is the trying itself. And yet, and this is the final paradox, don't stop trying. Keep practicing, keep seeking, keep praying, keep meditating, keep studying, keep working on yourself. Not because it will get you somewhere, but because this is what humans do. This is how consciousness works through human form. The practice itself is the point, not the imagined destination. The seeking itself is the finding, not some future moment of attainment. You're not practicing to become enlightened someday. You're practicing because practice is what consciousness looks like when it's happening in human form, and there is no other moment than this one, no other form than the one you're wearing, no other path than the one your feet are already on. The trap sabotages everything you desire. Ibn Arabi shows you why. What you do with that knowledge, whether it hardens you into cynicism or breaks you open into humility, that's the test that every spiritual seeker faces. And there's no passing or failing. There's only the ongoing, moment-by-moment choice to be honest or deluded, awake or asleep, real or performed. The trap will be there either way. The question is whether you're conscious enough to see it operating, wise enough to stop taking its bait, humble enough to laugh at yourself when you realize you've fallen for it again, and gracious enough to forgive yourself and keep going, because this path is not about perfection. It never was. It's about becoming real in a world of spiritual fantasy. And that's something that apparently requires a lifetime of getting trapped, seeing the trap, getting trapped again, and slowly, painfully, learning to walk through life with your eyes open, your heart soft, your ego quiet, and your soul paying attention to the only teacher who's always present. This moment exactly as it is, including the trap and including the awakening from it, both movements of the same divine breath that brought you into existence and will carry you back out of it when the story has told itself completely and all your seeking has revealed what was always here. Nothing was ever separate, nothing was ever lost, there was never anywhere to get to, and the trap itself was just love in disguise, teaching you the only lesson that matters. You were never not home.